What are your favourite podcasts?
I just listen to a lot of Rogan, really.
You can definitely have too much of Joe Rogan.
Any Australian ones?
First Draft podcast.
Yeah,
May it rest in peace.
But they're done, I think.
Yeah.
Bronwyn's moving to Melbourne.
It was really funny because we hit them up when they were going strong, and then we got them on, and then they haven't done an episode since we got them on. It was like, oh.
You killed First Draft podcast?
Yeah. Literally. Oh,
well, Ethan Simiano is going to stay in town. Maybe you can convince him to get 2 other people to do it with him.
I hope so. Have you seen his YouTube channel? It's really funny. He does these like weird. He's doing this thing where he's ranking. What's it like? Hey, you. What's that singer?
No, I was going to say Vanessa Amorosi, but that's wrong.
No,
I know her.
Yeah.
You were a skater boy.
Yeah,
She
exactly.
said, see you later,
Avril
boy.
Lavigne.
Avril Lavigne.
He ranks Avril Lavigne music videos and stuff. That's pretty funny. Anyways,
Avril Lavigne. She's got some good songs.
she's married to
Chad
Nickelback's
Kroeger.
Yeah, there you go. You got into it.
She had one bad mistake. It's Chad.
Have you ever done a scene involving Nickelback or
No.
Avril Lavigne? Because at the next Big Fork, I'm just going to shout out.
I don't think we have, no. Unless the offer was like, what's your least favorite band?
Yeah.
And then someone's like, Nickelback.
Can we get a word from the audience? What's your least favorite band?
Like, who is a woman who is married to someone way below her standards? Avril Lavigne. That'd be the only time we get those 2 offers.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like you're either going to offend Avril Lavigne fans or you're really going to offend Nickelback fans. You can't really
How
do
many
a joke
fans
about
would
them,
be?
but Ethan Simiano
no.
is in the audience. He's like, fuck.
But actually, Nickelback's go actually quite popular around the world. There's like we make these Nickelback jokes like they suck, but they still sell out arenas and stuff.
Well, so I work.
Ironically, maybe.
No.
Do people go see Nickelback like ironically?
So I work at the Brisbane Entertainment Centre,
Yeah.
and I worked at their show, which was in April, I think.
Yeah.
And everyone's making the jokes behind the scenes before the show starts. But then the show is going, and I'm listening to it the whole time. I'm like, there are actual bangers. Like, they have so many hits that you forget about.
Sure. They
And-
have their
and the
bottom of the
audience-
bottle.
Yeah.
And then this photograph or something. Look at this photograph.
But when that song played in that arena of fans, it was like the Messiah had arrived. And then like the song from Spider-Man, people were losing their minds over these songs. So
Yeah.
I would genuinely go to, like, I wouldn't pay for it, but if he was at a festival, the
I
band.
think people make fun of Nickelback because their band name is so stupid. Nickelback's a pretty bad name for a band.
I suppose.
I mean, I love the Foo Fighters, but Foo Fighters not that great either.
Well, Foo Fighters is cool because it's like a World War II thing, isn't it? Like
I don't know. I have
planes.
no idea.
It's actually named after something.
I just giggle at Foo Fighters. What were you thinking, Dave Grohl?
I just giggle at Dave Grohl. He's just got a big mouth. Do you have the cameras on? Okay. Are they focused though? Okay, sweet. Well, so yeah, essentially, we're just gonna go through. You'll find out.
Cool. Yeah, I'm ready for anything, man.
Let's do it. All right. Well, speaking of focusing, welcome to episode 21 of the Slot Podcast, an interview series that fills your ears with wild discussions, fascinating stories, and unique insights from Australia's best creators, like one of the 5 prongs. Are there 5 prongs in a fork, or are there 4?
There's 4.
Well, this is a 5-pronged fork.
Yep.
That is Big Fork Theatre, which exists in Brisbane, and you're one of the prongs, and you're also a comedian and improviser, which is kind of the same thing, or would you say?
It is, yeah. It basically, they just do 2 different kinds of comedy.
They're like the back of the nickel, like 2 sides of a nickel.
That's right.
That is comedy.
That's
Right.
right. Yep.
But your name is Mr. Christopher Martin.
Thank you for having me. It's a
And
pleasure to be here.
How often do people make the Coldplay joke?
Actually, not that often. Every podcast I do, after they do the introduction, they bring it up.
Well, glad we could add ourselves to the list.
But actually, it's maybe happened 3 or 4 times. And it'll be like an MC that I've never met before who will like, oh, this next guy will come up and do some hits for you. I'm like, oh my God.
I feel like every one of them gets there like, I'm going to be the first one to do this. It's going to be hilarious.
But the problem is I haven't come up with a good joke to follow that. So they're like, well, it's Chris Martin from Coldplay. And I just come and say, hey.
Just come up and you like...
And then I just do my stuff. And I'm like, I haven't got a joke yet. So
you
I'm
could wear your yellow hat and make a yellow joke. Like,
oh, fuck.
Or
Good.
I don't know.
Well, that's only like I only owned that for a week and a half because I was in Sydney getting burnt in Manly, and I'm like, I went into a tourist shop and said, "What's your cheapest hat?" And they're like, "Here you go."
Yeah,
So
yellow.
$5. And yeah, so maybe I will wear that hat.
You could dress up as an elephant, like in the Paradise music video, where he's riding a bike. Clearly, you're not as big of a Coldplay fan as your name suggests.
Not at all.
So maybe your parents were.
I like The
Although Coldplay wasn't
Scientist.
around,
The Scientist is a good song.
Scientist is a good song.
Yeah.
Well, for the uninitiated, who are you and what is Big Fork?
My name is Chris Martin, and I'm just going to say I'm a comedian from Brisbane. I'm also a scientist from Brisbane.
That's why you like the song. There's a lot of Coldplay connections here.
Oh my God, maybe I am Chris Martin. In fact, guys, So yeah, I do comedy in Brisbane, and so Big Fork Theatre is an American-style improvisation company, which is the most popular kind of improv in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to Chicago, it's all long form, whereas like it's not theatre sports. Theatre sports, they have like kind of games and stuff and loopy games. If you ever watched Whose Line Is It Anyway, they're like, you can only say 2 words at a time, or you're a secret guest to a party and they got to guess who it is. It's none of that. We get a word and we basically just go for like half an hour with that word, and there's different formats you can do, you know, where you come back to a group scene, or there's like two paired scenes and then a group scene or whatever, but generally it's all loose and made up on the spot.
Which is awesome. Well, see, this podcast is born out of improv because I and a group of 5 friends did theatre sports in high school.
Okay.
And I hated improv my entire life. I got roped into doing improv in grade 12.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went all the way to the grand final and won it across the road at Le Bois.
Really?
Yeah. And then we were like, this is weird. And it was like a weird Disney movie story where there was so many hits along the way and like people leaving and like we had to bring in some veterans to help us out. And I was like, this is podcast material. So we started a podcast and the first 2 episodes were about improv theatre sports, really. And then we were like, let's just keep doing this and talk to different people. And then we did a different theatre sports podcast. But this whole thing is a theatre sports improv based.
So what was your favorite game when you did it?
We liked the games, which are why I like long form improv now a lot. That were just stories where we would do like film noir, for instance.
Yes.
Where we could just go for 4 minutes and just do a, crazy thing where we'd be characters.
Well, that's essentially I liked both forms because I started in theatre sports, but then I found like Cameron Watson was and Edward Chalmers were the bosses of Sherbet Underground that did like American style improv.
Yep.
And we went over, and I was like, what is this? What is this new style of improv I've never seen? Because there's so much freedom, and that's why I like it so much better. I do still like theatre sports. It's fun to go out on stage and be wacky a bit, but I feel like you get a lot of your laughs in theatre sports when you kind of fuck up the game in theatre sports, whereas you don't get your laughs in long form improv from fucking up. You actually get them because you got to genuinely be funny. You know, if you're not,
it's very true.
If you're not funny in long form improv, it's the biggest like dead weight. You're like, I don't want to go out again because this is just a nightmare.
And there's no like in long form, you don't have the game to rely on. You don't have the structure of that.
It's just all you.
And it's you and it's the team. It's that trust and the rapport and stuff.
So that's what I did. I did improv for years before I ever did stand up comedy. And I love both. I really do. And I think improv's the best tool to kind of just blow off steam at the end of like a shitty week.
Totally.
Just go out with your mates and you just play make-believe as a 30-year-old. It's amazing. And then you feel, if it's a great show, you feel great for the rest of the weekend.
100%.
And then you go back to stand-up, which is where audiences are like, make us laugh, motherfucker. You're like, oh, all right.
See, okay, this is
Can
fantastic.
I swear on this podcast?
Yes, you can.
All right, cool.
Fucking swear.
All right, cool. This wasn't if this was for assessment or something.
Okay, this is for assessment. But
he said fuck a lot.
well, the assessment, you can say whatever you want. Right. You've brought up 2 good points. One is that we'll get to a section in the middle, which is I'll be using some of the answers for assessment. But
Sure.
I'll let you know. So
no worries,
you can get academic. But it will be about audiences and the
Okay.
difference between stand-up audiences and improv audiences and,
All right. Yep.
and stuff like that. So
I'm
we'll
happy
get to
talk
that
about
later. But first, if you're enjoying this, you can head over to theslopshack.com where you can get lots of content and the occasional film festival. You can also hit that subscribe button if you're there. All of Chris's 600 friends, please subscribe. That would really help.
Come on,
And if you're on
guys.
audio, you can check us out on Spotify, SoundCloud, Podbean, iTunes, all of the above. Links below. But first, today, I want to go back to the beginning. You said something really intriguing to me. You said you're a scientist.
Oh yeah, I was good at science at school.
But are you like, what is that? Were you a scientist? Like,
yeah,
are you still a
I
scientist?
am. Yeah. So that's I'm a part-time scientist, and I guess I'm a part-time comedian.
It just sounds like a sitcom.
Because there's no money in comedy. There's literally no money in comedy
Yeah.
unless you're selling out arenas or you're on TV or in radio or something. So you have to find your actual income from somewhere else. And I was a scientist before I was a comedian. So after I became a comedian, I'm like, can I go part-time? They're like, absolutely. And I was like, this is awesome.
Wow.
So I work at Ipswich Hospital, and I work in a cardiac lab. So people who have heart attacks come see me, and we assess how bad their heart attacks were, or how much of a risk they are of having a heart attack, and then we send our report off to the doctor, and that's basically what I do
That's so
to pay the bills.
This just is a show waiting to be made, where it's like clinical scientist by day, comedian by night. But then you give people you became a comedian so that you could make people laugh so hard that they would have heart attacks, so that you would get more jobs at your day job, and it's like goes hand in hand. And eventually, there's a detective who's like, we've been getting all these heart attacks at these shows, and then they connect the
I
dots.
stare at
to you.
people in the audience that I want to have a heart attack.
Yeah, something like that.
I direct my jokes right at them, and they go, I'm
It's
like,
so funny. I'm dying. Yeah. I'm gonna write that. I'm sorry.
please do, and cast me.
Yeah, obviously. I'm gonna cast Chris Martin from Coldplay.
That doesn't make any sense. He's so busy.
I don't know.
But yeah, I do that, and then I still do it, but in 2000 and I think must have been 11 or 10, 2011, I was like, there's got to be more to life than this, because it's very repetitive. Being a scientist is fun, but it's so repetitive. Like no scientist is like, well, got something new today. They never say that. It's the same boring shit every day. They're like, oh, I got to got to take DNA out of worms again. No one's got any new projects until that. And because I'm not a researching cardiac scientist,
Right. Yeah.
I just do the same tests every day,
Yeah.
unless the government hands my department millions of dollars and be like, start something new. Like, all right, but that'll never happen. So I'm just in the office doing the same thing. So I'm like, this is killing me. What else is there? And then I started an improv class with Impro Mafia.
Okay. So are they the oldest sort of long form Brisbane?
They're the oldest improv theatre in Brisbane, but they really focus on theatre sports and genre style long form, which is different to the long form we do.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll do like Cinderella, the show or whatever, which is like you have set characters. They rehearse with those set characters, and then how they rehearse, they'll get a scenario, and then they'll do like a play in front of the director, and the director will be like, what did you think about this and that and that? Whereas we just rehearse the form.
Yeah, exactly. It's different every time.
And we can change characters throughout the show, whatever.
Okay.
And that's why I find it more exciting, because I'm not set in the one character. I can come back as like the postman, and then I can come back later as God, whatever.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, having fun. It's that, childlike play, I guess.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
I dig it. So, you it's said in some articles and things that you then you went to Chicago to study. How does one it says it in a few the co-founders, a few just studied it, in Chicago at the IO and stuff like that, and I'm just like, how does that just happen? How do you just end up in Chicago studying improv? Do you just book a plane?
Yes.
You just
That's
went?
literally it.
And they just be like, yeah, come in, everyone.
Yeah, they do.
Wow, that's so cool.
So every year, IO Theatre in Chicago, which is like the Del Close Theatre in Chicago. Del Close is the godfather of American-style improv, and his theatre was the Improv Olympic Theatre, and it's IO. And basically, once a year, they have a 5-week improv intensive course where anyone in the world, you just go to their website and then you just book your place in this course. It costs about $1,000 American or something, which is maybe $1,200 Australian.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives you your 5 weeks, and then you book your planes and your accommodation around that, and then off you go. And you don't need to have any experience.
Wow.
They'll teach you. If you have experience, you'll do really well. If you don't have any experience, by the end of 5 weeks, you'll be a competent improviser. And it's the best experience you'll ever have in your life because you learn from some of the best improvisers in the world, like Tara DiFrancisco, Craig Euler's there. I mean, these people are masters of improv. Craig Euler was my teacher in week 3. The best improv teacher I ever had because he didn't fuck around. If you did something shit on stage, he'd be like, that was shit.
Yep.
Start again. I love that kind of feedback. I hate people who are like, that was pretty close to what we wanted, but you're going good, guys. No, he was like, you fucking sucked. You sucked just then. Get off stage, and can 2 other people get up here and do a scene that doesn't piss me off? And you're like, hell
Is he
yeah.
smoking a cigar?
Yeah.
Like, that's great.
And he had a cat. Smoking, and he had a cat.
The cat had a cigar.
But it was really, but that kind of but you knew he wanted to get the best out of you.
Yep.
He wasn't just an asshole. That was how he taught. And it was really effective because by the end of the week, I knew how to do things that I never knew how to do.
It clearly worked because you're still talking about him.
That's right.
So
Well, then you come back and you play like shit for like 3 weeks because over the 5 week period, you'll learn so much new information that it's in your head. And you're like, it scrambles. You don't even know how to do basic yes anding. You're like, but then eventually it all finds its place. And subconsciously, when you go out and do a scene now, your brain just grabs. I didn't really think. You just grab something and you react. Basically, now I just react to things in improv and have fun. So they're react and have fun. They're my main things.
I dig it.
Yeah.
2 random things I saw on your lists of like things that you've done.
Yeah.
One was Speed the movie, the play.
Yes.
Please explain what that is.
Oh, you never saw it?
I've never heard of Speed the movie, the play.
Okay, so that Speed the movie, the play was an Act React theater production back in 2014.
Wow.
And you know Speed the movie with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love
so,
it. But I was like, how is that a play? Is it just on a bus the whole time? And
so what they did was well, for the Brisbane Comedy Festival in 2014, through the 3 directors, I think it was Greg Robotham, Natalie Behensky, and Dan Beeston, they watched the movie, found the really funny bits and important bits of the movie to tell a story, and then cut it down to an hour and kept all the jokes. And then they cast a whole bunch of people, got a bus company to give them a bus for a month. And then we did the show
on the bus.
On the bus. So you'd start outside the bus in the elevator, if you remember the start of the movie.
Yeah, 100%.
And then you get them onto the bus, and then Keanu Reeves, and the guy's like, there's a bomb on the bus. I played the bus driver, so I died every night.
Right.
25 times in the one season. So like after the guy, like he grabs the gun, the bullet goes off, I'd turn around and go, ah! And then I'd like lie on the audience who were sitting there on the bus, and then
you just lie there for the rest of the.
Yeah, but they'd have fun with it. They'd be like, "We protect you, man," and they're like, usually the audience member would like hold my fake blood.
Oh
thing.
man,
I got you, man. You won't die. I'm like, "Oh, thanks, man."
That's so cool.
It was really fun. It got a really great reaction that I had to, because of obviously I had to step down as like the bus driver because it just getting too busy. But they took it to Perth a couple of years ago, and it went really well. They're about to take it to the Sydney Fringe Festival. I think this week they're playing Sydney Fringe. They've already sold out their whole run.
Wow.
And Dan Beeson stepped down from like performing now, so I believe it's Chris Milne who's now the new Keanu Reeves character, and he does stuff with Big Fork too.
Awesome.
And he's really funny, so that should be a fun show. And at the Wonderland Festival coming up, they're actually doing Die Hard, the movie, the play. So they're doing the exact same thing, but Die Hard. But the great thing about Speed the movie, the play,
it's all one
is
location.
that the one location, but the characters change. So the audience members play the character.
Yeah.
So that's how they play it. I think it's inspired by Point Break, the movie, the play, which is a famous. It's actually a famous LA show or something.
Oh man, how does that work though? Because it's
so they
surfing.
get a character.
How do you do that in a play?
I've never seen it, but apparently it's a masterpiece.
It must
and
be.
it sells out, and they just do Point Break, the movie, the play, 6 nights, so 6 times a week in LA, in an LA theater, every day of the year, and they sell out, and it's just literally they'll come out on stage, grab an audience member, and they play Keanu Reeves for the first little bit, then they sit down, and then they'll grab another audience member who plays Keanu for the rest. Yeah, and that's how they did Speed, the movie, the play. They got a character to play Sandra Bullock's character. So the
From
bus
the
driver
audience.
from the audience.
Oh,
so,
wow.
but they didn't swap her out. She was the bus driver the whole show.
It makes
and
sense.
then they did Titanic, the movie, the play, the year after, and that was fun. And they had the Rose.
Yeah.
They had an audience member play Rose at different parts of the show. But I'm looking forward to Die Hard, the movie, the play, because who doesn't like Die Hard?
No, yeah. The best.
And there's so many good comedy
Christmas
bits you can
movie.
use.
Ho, ho, ho. Now I have a machine gun. We
That's
quote that
right.
movie all the time. We're big Hans Gruber fans at the Slot Podcast.
Well, you know.
See, that makes sense, Speed, because you've got, you can use the characters and it's all set in one bus. But then, I don't understand Point Break. I'm going to have to look that up. Because it's
I
literally
think it's on YouTube, yeah.
surfing and car chases and skydiving. It's like...
But the characters are so amazing because they're like, whoa, Bodhi. My name's Bodhi.
I am an FBI agent.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And when they try to do Australian accent, oh, mate, it's bloody Ripper back down there. You're like, oh, my God.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. So, Big Fork Theatre.
Yes.
I want to know how it all came together, how the 5 prongs became the fork, and were you guys just sort of performing in different places and realized that there wasn't really a Chicago style, like American style long form in Brisbane, and then sort of joined, or?
No, not at all. I think what happened, we came together because I love stage time. So Impro Mafia was great, but then it had the one weekly show, so you had to kind of look for other places to do other stage time. And Sherbet Underground was running some stuff. That was Cameron and Ed. And they were running for what they were doing. They were running free jams on Tuesday nights where you go and they just teach you some improv stuff and you jam and do improv facility fun. No audience, just other improvisers.
Cool.
And that was super fun. I did that for a year and a half. And I still did Impro Mafia stuff. But then Impro Mafia started a show called... what was it called? I think it was a Big House. And that was a indie team improv show where 2 indie teams would come and compete against each other, and then the audience would choose which one was the favorite, and then they'd go on to the next round. Okay. And we got to know Cameron and Ed through that much better because they had a two-part pair improv team called Chavprov where they play English people, and it was really funny. And they do this American style long form stuff. Yeah. And the other people kind of do more Impro Mafia long form stuff. And it was still fun, but we got to know them. And they're like, come and we'll do some more American style and we'll teach you how to do American style long form. And I was like, well, what's that? So I turned up, and then the workshops became focused on doing things like the Harold, which is an American style long form. Or basically the Harold is the most famous as Chicago style format or American style format, and a lot of other formats come from that format.
There's a great video, if you're unfamiliar, from the Upright Citizens Brigade. It's ASCAT, I think it is. And it's
so ASCAT's actually an Amando. Oh. Yeah, so I'm a monologist. Right, and the scenes are inspired by an monologist. Have you seen Cool Story Bro?
I haven't seen it. I don't think so.
So Cool Story Bro.
Actually, I might have. Was it?
That's where we have a storyteller and then.
Actually, I have seen it.
That's an Amando.
Yeah. Okay. So then the Harold opening is different then.
Yes. Well, no. Well, the Harold, there's an opening.
Yeah.
Then there's 3 group scenes. There are 3 pair scenes,
and then
a group
together,
scene,
right? Yeah.
And then 3 more pair scenes inspired by the first pair scenes. Yeah. Another group scene, and then kind of you bring it all together. All the characters that you saw on the first 2 group scenes come together somehow. Okay. And that's the show.
So ASCAT's slightly less strict.
That's right. But fun fact: a Seinfeld episode is a Harold.
Wow, that's cool.
So every Seinfeld episode. That's what I've heard. I haven't really studied Seinfeld, but allegedly a Seinfeld episode is a Harold.
Makes sense, I guess.
Larry David, he was a big, writer and improv guy and stand up. So and brings together. And if you know a Harold, you have, and the group scenes were always the ones at the diner.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
they have like there would be the group scenes, and then you have 3 scenes
Yeah.
leading up to that, and then you know how Seinfeld, all their stories
Yeah,
kind of
I was just gonna say,
interlocked
it's-
right at the end,
makes
and that's
sense.
where all the big comedy comes
Yeah.
from. You know,
That's so true, because I was thinking about how I love Seinfeld, because yeah, they'll take the 3 separate stories and put it together. I was like, that is Harold. That is
Yeah.
what the format is.
So they taught us that sort of stuff, and then they started doing performance stuff on Saturday nights every now and then, and we did that, and then I guess the Ed moved to Melbourne,
Mm-hmm.
so there was like a bit of like what do we do now? And Sherbet Underground kind of dissolved, but we were all like, but we want to still do improv and long form and stuff. What do we do? And Cameron's like, we could start a theatre, and we're like, yeah, let's do that. So basically, I said they had, so Cameron, Ed, Taylor, and Rosa,
Mm-hmm.
they had all trained in Chicago, and I hadn't. So I went over and did in 2015. I came back, and then when we came back, we Big Fork had been gone by then. So before I left, we had a conversation. We're like, yes, let's start a theatre, and then we had the name, which took ages.
What is the name?
Name is Big Fork Theatre.
Well, but how is the name?
How was the name? Well, what happened was we had like a Facebook group where we just put a name idea. It's like we're going to choose a name in 3 weeks. Any name ideas, you just put in this file. And we had like 300 names in there, and they're all shit house. They're like, Clerp Theatre. Like who would call anything that? And like, and like the Brain Theatre. Cameron really liked a theatre. I can't remember the actual name. It was like the Brain Theatre, and it was named after a theatre already existing in America. We're like, we can't use that because that's already a theatre. He's like, yeah, but can't we? I'm like, no, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And Big Fork wasn't even on that list. So I don't know. There's 2 competing stories about how Big Fork was formed.
Okay.
So my theory, I'll start with them. Their theory was that someone just mentioned a Big Fork in a field, and they're like, "What about Big Fork Theatre?" And I'm like, "That's a little." I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, that sounds a bit.
My
convenient.
one was someone was like, "Well, because we're so new and we want to develop into something bigger, what's something that when a child becomes an adult, what's a symbol of that?" And someone said, "Oh, you don't use a plastic fork anymore, but you use a big fork." And then we're like, "Oh,
A big fork.
And that was my. So when I had a journalist interview like 2 years later, I told them my side of the story, and then when they listened back to it, they're like, "What the fuck are you talking about? That's not how Big Fork was. The name came about." I'm like, "Well, that's how I remember it, and I think mine's better." So that's what I'm going to tell people, and that's what I tell you today.
It's definitely better.
Yep.
Yeah.
And but I honestly don't remember how it came out, and I'm pretty sure it's my way, and I'll fight that, and I'll take that to my death.
I like it. It makes sense. It's like, this is grown-up theater,
Yeah.
but where still it's got that childlike play that you're talking
That's
about.
right.
Bit of both.
But the other option is skeleton fight. So they were the last 2.
Skeleton fight.
Yeah. So it was.
See,
It,
that's a
it could
tough one
almost
for
be called
the.
Skeleton Fight Theatre or Big Fork Theatre, and actually, it was actually close, but Big Fork Theatre won out in
It's
the
good.
end of, and it was just the 4 of us because Jim hadn't joined yet.
Okay.
Jim still lived in Canberra, so he was doing improv in Canberra. So it was me, Cameron, Rosa, and Taylor. And Taylor and me partners, and Rosa and Cam were partners. So it worked out really well.
It's just all, yeah.
Yeah, so it was just
That's
us,
funny.
2 couples starting a theatre. And then Jim moved up and started doing Improv Mafia stuff. And then he started coming to our weekly jam. And he was really good and really interested in learning more about it. And he had a good head on his shoulders. So we were like, hey, why don't you come and be a director of the company with us? Because we need 5 to be a co-op, to be a legal business co-op, like a non-for-profit,
Okay, cool.
that you need 5 directors
Okay.
for a non-profit. And he's like, yeah, I'll do it. And so he came on in.
No, you need to fight.
Oh, well, I don't know. I think it's a loose rule.
No,
But
that's cool.
I think there's something, I don't know. Rosa's the law person. She's like, this is what we need.
Well,
And I just nod. Sure.
speaking of business law and things like that,
Yeah.
I have a couple of entrepreneurial questions.
All right.
But because I think that, from my understanding, comedy really is like entrepreneurial at its core, right? Because you're managing your own brand, you're doing all of this stuff, you're marketing,
Yeah.
you started Big Fork, you know what I mean? So I just kind of wanted to ask, like,
Sure.
how do you sort of, when you started out or now, do you sort of model your sort of brand or social media on other comedians, or do you just, is it trial and error? How do you sort of find that, like, you know, how do you market yourself as a comedian?
Oh my God, that's like the hardest. If you can work that out, then that's amazing. That's the hardest thing to do. I think a lot of, like, obviously the easiest way to market yourself as a comedian is to be a really famous comedian, and then when you have a show, you just go buy tickets on my website, and they'll sell out immediately.
Yeah.
Big Fork, I think, to market Big Fork successfully, which I think we have actually, is that we just keep contact going, and just remind the audience, remind people who in the area that we're still like a presence and we're not going anywhere. So we do 2 Facebook posts a day and Instagram once a day. And then we have a Big Fork Lounge, where our performers kind of like learn updates about shows and stuff, where we post in there. And then we do once every, I don't know, maybe 3 months, we'll do a letterbox drop around Paddington, just so people are like, oh yeah, we saw that show, it was good. But we do less of that now, and we still sell well. And we're the biggest issue is we started our Thursday night show, and because Facebook, obviously our Facebook page, we have minimal space to post about it. So now I got to, and I'm the like kind of the media
that's what I thought
person of Big Fork Theatre at the moment. So I got to somehow promote the Thursday show, promote the Friday show, promote classes coming up, because next term class is about to start, all in the 5 slots. And basically Friday's all right if you do a Friday morning post, but basically Friday afternoon to Sunday is just a dead zone on Facebook. Like if you post it, like you could post anything, like Big Fork Theatre will give you a fucking $1 million if you comment now. That will get no traction on on the weekend. Doesn't matter how good that post is. Like no one cares about Facebook posts on the weekend. So basically it's like Monday to Thursday are your prime days on Facebook, and you just learn things like that by doing a little bit. I don't know. We don't sponsor posts because I think sponsoring posts wastes money, to be honest. Unless you, like I said, unless you have huge momentum and your name is like, you know, like Ricky Gervais, then sponsoring a post won't do shit for you. You're just giving money to Facebook.
Totally.
You might get 1 ticket sale, but it's not worth the $150 you put into the Facebook ad for that 1 ticket sale. You might as well just grab a megaphone, walk through the streets, and just be like, Big Fork Theatre.
Yeah.
Friday nights, Paddington.
Yeah, no.
But it's really, it is hard. Like, and I find it
okay.
exceptionally hard as a comedian too, because Brisbane, like the Bris Funny Fest was just in Brisbane not so long ago, and there's 90 shows. And you got to convince, and maybe an audience of, I think they sold 6,000 tickets, which there'll be a lot of double ups there. So let's just say, for instance, 4,000 people bought tickets to that festival. 90 shows, you got a pool of 4,000 people. You got to convince them why your show's better than the next show, when generally a lot of people who did a show was their first ever solo show. So it's going to be good, but then there's going to be weird moments, and then they're going to be good, and then like, energy. Yeah. And obviously, and then again, if it's your second show, so the trick with your first show is your families and friends will come, so you'll generally sell well, because you'll sell well to your family and friends. You'll do 2 shows and you'll sell out, and you'll be like, I sold out great, guys. You're like, well, was it all your family and friends? Like, yeah. But then after a while you do comedy, you can't rely on your friends and family anymore. And I've done comedy for long enough now where I've lost that kind of, I'm like, hey guys, come to my show. And they're like, we saw your fucking show. And you're like, but it's a new show. And they're like, is it though? You're like, I swear it is. But so your friends are like, oh, I'll come when you're famous. And that's what I get now. My best friends are like, I'll come when you're fucking selling out, like Powerhouse Theatre, but I'm not coming to a bar to watch you do your shit. And you're like, fair enough. And so you're like, so when I promote a show, I need to get randos now. And I'm like, so I'm into this new area. Like, how do I get randoms to my show? And I honestly think I need the best marketing tool, I thought about this, would be like, me walking home and I go past a burning house and someone's in there like, save me! And I fucking run in there and I grab a woman over my shoulder, or 3 children, and I run out, and then the news team, this guy saved me. And I'm like, my name's Chris Martin. I'm a comedian. I got a show on Thursday. Come support a local hero. And then that would be the best promo.
Says, have you seen Spider-Man: Far From Home?
I love that. Yeah.
Strangely Mysterio-esque your plan there.
Yes, I know, but I don't want to kill people. I want
You
to
didn't set the
save
fire.
them.
You just walked past the fire.
Yeah, it was all luck.
Yeah. No, that's true. You should write a book about how being a hero is the key to comedy success.
It is. Or just being funny. I don't know. It's hard. What you really need is management.
Yeah.
From what I heard, is management is beautiful because they take care of all your marketing, and then you just get your money in the end, and you kind of open the curtain and you perform to whoever's there. So you don't really know. I guess when you manage, you don't know how many tickets you sold or whatever.
Mm.
And you're like, let's just go outside, and there might be 3 or there might be 300 out there, but there's less risk for you.
Yeah, I suppose. It's interesting because it's like, that's a very small bubble, I feel like, that has management. So the rest, there's just so many people that are trying to work it out.
Well,
and
it's
they're
such a
working on social
high
media.
saturated. Everyone wants to be a comedian.
Yeah.
And I think the people who do better in comedy are the ones that generally love comedy.
Mm.
I think there are a lot of comedians, and there'd be a lot of comedians around the world who like the comedian lifestyle, and that's why they want to be a comedian, because they see comedians as like they get to drink, stay up late, don't do work during the day, and they get paid to basically drink beer and go on stage and do an hour's work a night, and that's a pretty appealing lifestyle.
Sounds pretty
But you have to work your fucking ass off to
totally.
get there. It's exhausting.
That's
and
what it sounds like. Yeah.
And if you're not doing the work, you'll never make it. If you're not, after you finish show, I finished my Sydney Fringe run last week, and I've already started writing new jokes. And I'm not my aim is to do another hour by the next year, but now I'm just kind of thinking of the things that I thought about that I put on the back burner because I got the show and I was focusing on that. Now I'm bringing them out. I'm like, how do I make this funny? So I'm probably going to bomb for the next 3 months, just trying to get the right words to say. And that's fine. I'm prepared to do that because that's what you got to do as a comedian. You got to go out and try your material and be like, this is an idea I had. Nope, you didn't like that. Whoa, all right. And I think a lot of audience members go, "Oh, that person's a bad," don't see that. What they see is the specials on Netflix, and they're like,
the polished.
they must thought Bill Burr just walked out and said those words and went, "Hey, I nailed it, first one," which is not true because I had a friend who went to UCB in LA, and they have a headline comedian every month or something, or once a week on the Saturday. That's right, and it happened to be Chris Rock.
Right.
So you don't know who it is, but you're sitting in the audience and like, welcome to stage, Chris Rock. And you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
He came out, did 25 minutes, got 2 laughs in 25 minutes because it was all new material.
Yeah.
And he was like, I've never seen Chris Rock struggle so bad because what I see is the Chris Rock HBO or Netflix special. But he was here literally just trying new gear that wasn't working for him on the night. And he was like, oh my God, if Chris Rock can bomb, I'll bomb any day of the week. I don't give a shit. And he told me that. I'm like, I'll bomb forever. I don't care.
I'll bomb.
I'll
do it.
So yeah, and so now I'm not worried about audience members and stuff, especially when I'm generating new material because that's part of it. Like, why would I? And there are some comedians who are like, I might bomb. You're like, who cares if you bomb? It doesn't mean you're not funny. It just means you haven't said your funny joke in the right way yet to make it funny. And that's exactly what it is. You just got to keep going out and try it over and over, rejig it. How'd I say that? It can be as easy as a single word in a sentence. It can be that easy. Comedy is not an exact science. I don't know how comedy works. I don't know why things work and why not. I know the word cock is funnier than penis when you say it on stage. If you say cock, the laugh will be harder than penis. I don't know why that's a thing.
Good tip.
If you got a joke involving a penis, say cock. But I don't know why.
Title of the podcast.
I don't know why. So and you say a word, and even inflections your voice. You can change your voice. When the character, the character's like, "Hello, Chris," or if you ever see me do a punchline, I inflect on my punchlines. I'm like, "Hey, you going?" And I'll say, "Yeah."
Makes sense.
And I don't know why those things work, but they just do. And I think it's all about the individual, the confidence, the stage presence. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, failure is the key to success, and you wouldn't know that if you hadn't fucked that up before.
That's right.
You learnt, and then that's how you know these things. So.
Oh man, the hour I took to Sydney, all those jokes took ages getting my ass kicked
Yeah.
in front of a live audience before it started work. I did a joke for 8 weeks that never worked, and then I did it the same, and then they finally, the audience around Australia just decided, yeah, it's funny now. And I never changed it. I didn't change it once. I'm just like, this is a funny idea. Why is it
Yeah.
working? And then 8 weeks later, they're like, like, what? And then it never has not worked again.
That's
I'm
really
like,
weird.
all right. But yeah, it's persistence. And I know a lot of comedians who throw something away after like one failed test. You're like, no, you got to try that again. You just got to rejig it. And they're like, nah, fuck that. You're like, no, really, rejig that.
Obviously, I've been obsessed with improv for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do film, but I decided to enroll myself in I'm doing a drama minor, sort of to make up credit points.
Sure.
And so I enrolled myself in an improv class because I like improv.
Which one?
Here, Anne Pensilvani's running it.
Okay.
It's at QUT. It's a
Cool.
part of the drama unit. And it's been great because before now it was really theatre sports. And I'd done some theatre sports coaching, some judging. And I was really a part of theatre sports. And now she's sort of opened my mind completely. That's why we're here with you right now. Because we had to, for an assessment piece, interview someone in comedy or improv or theatre type scene. And it's expanded my understanding of improv, which has been great. But I have to ask you some questions regarding working in comedy with an audience.
Go.
And you've kind of answered and touched on some of them so far, but I'm going to get more specific. So, sort of a specific question. Improv is all about like the audience's participation, right? And so I guess the best example of that is the suggestions that you get from the audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about picking the best suggestions? Because usually it's a whole bunch of people yelling at once, right? Is it just the thing that's funniest to you?
No, not at all. It's just generally it's what you hear first.
Okay.
So we're happy to do that. But, we try not to. A lot of people come to the shows and be like, vagina. You're like, we're not taking vagina. And you're like, what's another one? They don't, like, the audience don't understand. They don't want to see that show.
Right.
Because they'll seriously, they'll throw out the word dildo. If we did a half-an-hour show about dildos, that's a show they don't want to see. And they'd be like, what have I done? Because there's not much to do with it.
Yeah.
When you think about dildo, that your mind only goes to, like, 3 places tops. You know what I mean? And so the inspiration is limited. And you don't want to see that show. People don't want to see that show.
Yeah.
But the audience like try and be funny. So we try and use an offer which is quite broad, like, and most things are broad, like, Apple. You can do heaps with Apple.
Yeah.
Whatever. So that's how we basically choose our offers.
You got to give them something they didn't know they wanted, right?
That's right. And it doesn't matter what we get. We'll still do our best with it to turn it into comedy gold. But we try and steer away from really obscure, sexy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people are trying to be
provocative.
People
stuff.
are just trying to be funny.
Mm.
Generally, they don't make the best offers when the audience when the offer itself is a joke. They don't make the best offers.
Makes sense. How aware of the audience are you when you're doing improv? And do you think you're more aware when you're in that role of like ending the scene because you're trying to end it at a key point, or are you sort of just focused on the scene itself?
When you first start improv, you're highly aware of the audience, and you constantly want a validation, want laughs and stuff, and you're very aware that it's not happening if the scene's gone badly. But when you get to my level, I couldn't give two shits about if the audience was there or not. I just go out and have fun with my scene partner.
Cool.
And the laughs and stuff are a bonus. And you get to the point where you're like, oh, I know I'm going to say this line is going to get a huge reaction from the audience. You do get to that point where you're like, I have a line ready to go in 3 lines because I know exactly what he's going to say to that, and I know exactly what I'm going to reply to that, and I know what he's going to say to that. And then, kaboom, there's my line, and it's going to get a huge laugh.
And then I say cock, and then everyone loses it.
That's right.
Awesome.
That's right.
That's going in my assessment. Right, that's the example.
You can do that, and I think we teach our beginners that you don't need to be funny, and that gets them out of their head. They just react and yes and. But when you get to our level, you have to be funny. It's improv comedy. You have to be funny. It's about the like audience come out to our shows, Big Fork shows on a Friday night because they want to laugh. It's a great date night. They bring their girlfriends to laugh. No one comes. I've been described, improv has been described to me as like it's art and it makes you feel things. No one wants to see that.
Yeah.
No one's like, it's date night. Do you want to go feel something down in Paddington? Fuck that. That'd be the weirdest sentence ever said. No one's going to say yes to that. they're like, hey, Big Fork's doing a funny show. Want to come have a laugh? Hell yes.
Yep.
You want to go feel something? Be human? No.
Yeah.
No, I want to laugh.
I want to forget
and
my
that's-
problems. not
You got to be
absorb them.
funny. The art stuff and all that stuff about improv's fine. And yeah, sure, it's art, and you do feel things. It's about connections, but that's just secondary to what the main objective of improv comedy is. Comedy.
Yeah.
It's comedy, and you do form relationships on stage, but those relationships have a common goal, which is comedy. So you got to be funny. So as you get old, as you get more experience, then we're like, yeah, you got to be funny now.
Well, you've basically answered my next question, which was to say, like, comedy is about, like, it comes with the expectation of laughter, right? So it seems that the entire sort of point of comedy is thinking about the audience and serving the audience in a way more than you would in normal theater and stuff like that. Like, you're
Yeah,
having fun
exactly.
yourself, but you're having to think about what is funny for them.
That's right. So you do all that. You want to have fun, but you also like, oh, okay, how do I get laughs out of this situation? And then in half a second, you'll like work out a character. You'll work out like a point of view. You get a good. Basically, if you have a good character with a good point of view and you play through that point of view, then the scene's going to be 9 out of 10, just funny and fun. But and generally, if you're just there to have fun, I say this to my students all the time. If you're having a shitty time when you improvise, it's mainly because you're not having fun. Improv, it's just fun. It's dumb fun. If you're not having fun, then you're doing improv wrong.
Yep.
And if you like seriously, like 8 out of 10 times, if I come out on stage and say, "Oh, that was a shit show," it's because I was like, "Oh, I wasn't in the mood to improvise tonight," and I just couldn't get out of my head. I just couldn't just be like, "I'm having fun," so I just come out and say, "Rah!"
Yeah, well, that I want to take that idea a little bit deeper because at the show on Thursday night, School Night Comedy, was Raised by Wolves. You guys obviously know each other really well. You've improvised together for a long time. But I noticed that there are quite a few moments where you sort of like will laugh at the jokes and you'll sort of break character. And I'm sort of fascinated by the argument between like super deadpan and never breaking character, and if that's funnier than releasing the tension and showing the audience that something is funny. Because I often feel like it's funnier when you break a little bit because it means the joke was that funny that you couldn't even keep it together. And so I'm sort of interested in, like, do you think one is better than the other, and is that connected to you having fun while you're performing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think when you break slightly, it's just a say, yeah, yes, this is a fun thing. I'm having fun now, and I think it's about lightening up a bit on stage, and it is also different personalities. Like, there will be people in improv who are like, no, you cannot laugh ever. It's for the audience. You stay as the character, and you can never break when you tell a joke. But I'm like, fuck that. If I'm having fun on stage, my main goal. So if I'm performing improv in a scene with another person, like not my character, my improv character, but Chris, me.
Yeah.
Before I walk out stage, I'll be like, my goal is to get them to break character and laugh
Right.
in this scene.
Okay.
If I can say something so funny that my friend Taylor, or my girlfriend Taylor, I can make her laugh in a scene, then I'm gonna have fun. So that'll be my goal. And so I'll just be like, I'll come out as a character, and I'll be like, I'll try and prod her and poke her to get her to go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I did it. I did it. And that's where the fun for me comes from. But there will be improvisers like, no, you got to say. So I guess it's just a point of view. But I think if you laugh, you're showing the audience you're having a good time.
Yep.
And it gets them more relaxed. And especially when we have this thing where you can throw a wrench into the scene where a character, something happens that they're just unexpected and they have to react to that. You know, and the biggest, one of the best examples of that would be like, oh, Mr. Teacher, tell us that famous poem that you're banging on about, and they're like, oh shit. And then another one person would be like, but do it in French, because you can speak French. And you're like, fuck. And then they got to commit to that. And that's like throwing a wrench and putting all this pressure on that one person. But it's going to get a laugh from the audience because they're like, he's got to do a poem, but they know it's made up. They're like, he's got to make this up. And then like, but you got to do it in a French accent. And they're like, oh no, this is crazy. So it's just going to inevitably be silly and fun, and the audience are going to laugh, and they're going to be like, they'll have that moment where like, yep,
Yeah.
and then the audience will laugh at that. So, you know, and the thing, people shouldn't come to improv comedy for serious theatre.
Yeah.
There are scripted plays.
Right.
Broadway has been nailing it for years. There's lots of plays around. LeBoit had a show on last night that my other director and mate Jim went to with his wife. There is so much more places in the theatre world where you can get your serious dramatic comedy where people won't break and they'll play perfect characters and they'll deliver their lines funny. Improv's not the place.
Yep.
Improv's not the place. Some people bang on about improv like, we got to make sure they know it's made up on the spot. I'm like, seriously, no one's confused.
Yeah.
No one's confused that it's made up on the spot. Because we fuck our lines up all the time.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
say weird things and go, wait a minute, no, no one physically sits down and writes that, oh, he's going to fuck up a line right here and then double back, re-deliver that line. That's not how you write a good
Yeah.
script. So, yeah, it's definitely, no one's leaving a big folk show and going, oh, that was scripted.
Well, that would be the funniest thing to meet someone who's like, wow, there's a really interesting avant-garde take on scripted theatre, you know?
No one's worried. Like,
When they use the audience suggestion and it somehow was the same as the rest of the show, like, wow.
exactly. Never worry if you're worried that you should never worry that an audience is like, is this scripted? Because trust me,
Yeah.
they're like, no, this is no way. And you get all your laughs because it's in the moment. That's
Yeah.
where you get all your laughs. So no one's ever confused. Trust me, people out there who think it's scripted.
Yeah. You made an interesting point about, like, you know, putting someone on the spot and, like, the idea of, like, putting someone into a challenge, right, where they have to think of, you know, like, that, like you did on Thursday, where it's like you're a slam poem.
Oh, yeah. Well, I did that to myself.
Did you?
Yeah, because I walked down and said, I'm a slam poet. But
Oh,
I'm like,
that's right. That's
I'm,
right.
I'm the slam poet you hired because I just knew it'd be silly.
But then
and
you're, like, in that
dumb,
thing
and
that
then
you
I'm
had
like,
to-
then
yeah.
they're like, well, you got to do it now. I'm like, absolutely.
But like something like that where, yeah, you're put on the spot. I've always sort of felt like the hook of improv is that suspense that you don't get in scripted theatre, where it's like, and there's sort of two ways that you could look at it. So I want to see what you think.
Sure.
Do you think the hook of improv is sort of the audience waiting for failure and then constantly being surprised and like you constantly surpassing their expectations, or do you think that the hook of it is seeing people do something that they themselves couldn't do?
Oh, I think it could be a little bit of both, to be
Mhm.
honest. I think with the audience, so if I compare an audience to like a stand-up comedy audience,
Yep.
so an improv audience, they're often on your side
Mm-hmm.
straight away because they're already like, wow, they make it up on the spot. This is cool. So that you already have them on your side, rooting for you and wanting you to do well,
Yep.
right? And then you come out on stage and then you do things on the spot, and then you giggle and laugh. They're like, wow, these guys are on the spot, and then it's funny and charming for them. So there would be an aspect like I couldn't do that. So they're like rewarding you for doing something that they couldn't do as well.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you go to a stand-up audience, a lot of people are like, I could do this. I
Okay.
just never tried,
Right.
and I'm never going to try, but I could do this. And then they're also like, make me laugh, funny man, and you're like, oh, all right. So it's just a different person, but it's so weird because when those people come from stand-up over to watch improv, they turn into like, oh, they make it up on the spot, yay!
Right.
It's
okay.
almost like you got a puppy over here, and they're like, you're not that good of a puppy, whatever. And then there's a puppy over here where it's missing a leg or something, and they're like, oh, you're a little like they almost feel sorry for it.
Okay.
I'm not sure why,
It makes
but
sense.
I speak to a lot of people who watch stand-up comedy. And I'm like, I do improv. And like, when I do stand-up comedy shows, I'll speak to people in the audience. I'm like, oh, I also do improv. And they're like, ugh. I'm like, why? Why? Have you ever seen an improv show? No. I'm like, then how can you hate something you've never
Yeah.
seen before? But they do because the stand-up is so much, especially in Australia, stand-up is so much higher ranked in the comedy world. If you go over to like America, improv and stand-up are like level playing field. Every famous comedy actor, like Will Ferrell, like all those people, they're all improvisers. that came from the improv world and then became movie stars.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't realize like how big improv is,
Yeah.
and they just see it as like weak people comedy. But then they come and watch a show and they go, "Wow, that was really funny."
Because to me, improv's so much more impressive. So yeah.
Well, it's just really interesting. I see people and they do generally like, you know, I emceed a show a couple of weeks ago, and I did a show called Stand Up vs. Improviser, and they were like in there. I'm like, oh, and they're like, we were at that show, and I'm like, oh, cool. Did you enjoy it? They're like, yeah. I'm like, whoa, why? What's wrong with that? They're like, the improvisers won. I'm like, yeah, because they got more points at the end of the show. And they're like, yeah, but stand-ups were funnier. I'm like, well, that's okay, cool, man.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. Well then, so essentially you're saying that the improv audience is more supportive because they're rooting for you, and the stand-up crowd is like, impress me. That's sort of like...
Well, they're probably not that bad, but I think you have less time. In stand-up, you have about maybe 40 seconds to get them on your side.
Okay.
Whereas in improv, you maybe have a couple of minutes because they're already impressed that you make it up on the spot.
Yeah, okay.
No one's impressed that people do stand-up. All right,
true.
Because I think, especially if you're a male in the community, who doesn't want to be the funny person in the room? You know what I mean? Everyone goes up, they bring their girlfriends or they bring their boyfriends to the show, and then suddenly this other white man comedian comes out who's funnier than them. Like, fuck that. You're not funnier than me. I'm funnier. My girlfriend thinks I'm funnier than you, right? Yeah. So there's this weird thing, and then you just got to overcome that.
Okay. Makes sense. So, Brisbane's improv, you're talking about like the hierarchy and how it seems like Australia, but then maybe Brisbane has sort of has a less insight into improv. Like it's been less popular here, or it's changing.
It's changing, and it's more developing. You know, Big Fork, we're getting bigger and bigger, and we're trying to do more things. There's more improv in Brisbane than there was, say, I don't know, 7 years ago.
Okay.
Or eight years ago.
Okay.
But it's getting bigger in Brisbane. Melbourne's got a good improv scene. Sydney's got a really good improv scene. I'm not sure about Adelaide, or I know Perth has they're in like a kind of building phase as well.
Okay.
And yeah, we're kind of in a building but already developed phase.
So would you say that, like, say, you know, you've got maybe like Big Fork Fridays where you've got lots of new people coming, perhaps, that haven't seen improv before, but then you've got something like School Night Comedy, which is probably more of like regulars coming back, right? Sort of, maybe?
I think you get more regulars coming back to Big Fork Fridays.
Okay.
And then we have a lot more new people. School Night Comedy, it's really hard to tell who's coming to that show because it's only maybe a month old.
Okay.
So it's hard to be like, oh, we haven't really sat down and done like the math of like who's coming back to this show. But I think a lot of the people who come to School Night Comedy are supporting people in the show.
Okay.
Whereas we get a lot of randoms coming to Big Fork Fridays with a mixture of people coming to support people in the show as well.
So in that case, let's flip it then. You've got sort of more supportive audience on School Night, and then you've got maybe like randoms on Friday.
That's right.
Does the way you perform change based on, I guess you don't really know in the audience, but say you did, does it change based on an experienced improv audience versus randoms?
Nah.
Okay.
Not for me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just go out and do my thing. It's impossible to you can't change how you improvise or approach a different offer. I don't know what they like until it's like stand-up audience. You don't know what they like.
That's true.
Until you say your first joke and they're like, nah, I don't know material about Mum's tonight. You're like, fair enough, all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
It's like impossible to change how I perform until like, you know, you can adjust the way you perform. Like, say the first half goes bad, and it's kind of quiet, and then maybe the team who's going up in the second half, they might have a chat and be like, all right, they were pretty icy to that team. I thought the improv was pretty good. Maybe it wasn't amazing, but I still thought they deserved more than what they got. What should we do? We're like, all right, let's just go up with a fucking 110% energy. It also comes down to the MCs getting ready before the show. So we have the two MCs that'll go up. I think you really got to pump the audience up and be ready and like kind of like manage their expectations a little bit. Be like, this is improvised.
Okay.
It could go wrong. There's a chance that, you know, we're making this up on the spot. So it could go bad. And people like kind of go, oh, okay, I can see how this could go bad. Yeah, it could go bad very quickly. But you know, if an MC doesn't manage those expectations properly and just comes out and it's going to be the best fucking show you ever see, and then they come out and do like half-assed improv, they're going to be like, what is improv?
Okay, that's interesting. It's all
Yeah.
about setting those expectations.
I think you got to set those expectations. So a lot of how the show vibe and how the audience, the energy of the audience especially, is done by the MC, and that's with stand up too. You got to manage expectations, especially at open mic comedy. MC should be like, this is an open mic comedy night. You're gonna have some experienced comedians come up that are gonna crush, and they're gonna try some stuff, old killers or some new stuff. And you got some people who've started comedy tonight who are gonna come up, and we're gonna give them all your support. And then the audience knows, all right.
Okay.
So yeah, and I think it all comes back to how you host the show, how you deal with those expectations.
Okay, cool. That's interesting. Thank you. That's essentially my assessment questions out of the way.
Sweet.
So that's great. I just have a couple of questions,
Go
and then
for
we'll
it.
wrap it up. You were doing your show Claw Machine in Sydney.
That's right.
Just recently, I think.
Yeah, I just got back on Monday.
You bought that hat, right?
I did. I bought that hat last Monday.
There you go. So you can track your trips based on your hats.
That's right. Yeah.
I like that. But you've performed that show for quite a while, right? It's
Yeah,
at
so
least this year.
I did that show at the 2018 Funny Fest. That was my opening show, but it was fun, but it was 70 minutes long, and I'm like, this has to cut down.
Okay.
And then I did it at the Anywhere. I did Adelaide Fringe just because I want to try Adelaide Fringe, and that was fun. I didn't do amazing with ticket sales, but I got like double figures every night. I think I averaged 15 people a night, which
Cool.
in Adelaide, where there's 1,200 other shows on a night, you're like,
Yeah.
sweet. I did pretty well. But then I took it to the Anywhere Festival this year,
Mm-hmm.
which was in Brisbane, and I sold out 2 shows, which
Congrats.
was sick, and I got 3 rave reviews, like great reviews, and then I was like, what can I do with it now? And the Sydney Fringe application, I'm like, why not? And I went down, but also I kind of did I did a little tour of Sydney clubs and comedy
Mhm.
rooms while I was down there. So the nights I was performing, or the alternate nights I was performing, I do some of their big comedy rooms, and that was the funnest experience I did.
Cool.
I got to do 10 gigs while I was down there, and I did well at all of them. And, I had big comedians come up to me that are no, I'm like, hey, great set, man. You're like, yeah.
Very
Thanks,
cool.
man. So it was a good experience. The Sydney Fringe part. Sydney Fringe is notoriously hard if you're a no-name to sell tickets to.
Okay.
And I averaged 10 people a night, which I thought was pretty good. And I talked to people like Dave Woodhead and stuff. They're like, yeah, that's basically what I got to.
Yeah.
That's fine. And I sold, I was pretty happy with that. I don't know if it's worth it. It's probably more worth it if you're a TV or a radio person to do Sydney
Yeah.
Fringe. But I'm interested in I got this show, Stand Up vs. Improviser.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one I did the Funny Fest, and that kind of turned out to be a unexpected success.
It's got a good hook to it.
I thought it was a fun show, but I wanted to trial it to see if it had something there, and apparently it did, and it was a lot of fun. So I'm thinking about maybe taking it to Melbourne, Adelaide next year to see what happens.
Cool.
See how big I can make it.
I like that. So, before we wrap it up, you perform that show a lot. Then is the
Mhm.
fun of it tweaking it subtly each time, or how do you keep yourself invested and having fun?
Yeah, of course. Tweaking it's the best bit. Because
Yeah.
I'm very, I love, one of my favorite aspects of comedy is kind of the writing aspect and also organizing aspect of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And to get, it's actually an art in itself, get the right set list for the right show.
Okay.
So you have your opener, your middle jokes, and your closer. One of my favorite parts of going out to gigs is sitting down for 5-10 minutes before the show and working out what my running list is. And I have a diary, so I'm one of the few people. I'll carry a diary with me, and on that date I'll have the title of the gig that I do, and then I'll have the run list
Mm-hmm.
that I do that night, and then I'll listen back to my set, and I'll actually give myself notes on each joke and how they went.
Oh, cool.
And I'll give myself an overall, I'll be pretty good, or excellent set,
Cool.
or fuck that. Went terrible. So, and then that's what I do. So I have a book that I write my jokes in, and I have a diary, so I have diaries back from 2016.
Wow.
And so if I go to a gig And this is why I do it. So if I go to a gig, I can always look at my diary and say, when I was at this gig last, what did I do? How did it go? And I go, all right.
Oh, okay.
And then I can look at the last gig. I'm like, what am I working on at the moment? And I go, okay, cool. So I don't really want to cross over. You know what I mean? I don't want to do the same shit I did at a gig 3 months ago when I'm at the new gig, when I'm at that gig again. And then I just incorporate what I'm working on. And you know, I might have an opener or a closer, which might be the same, but then the middle stuff will be different.
Awesome. It's a lot of work going into just the set. So
just trial and error, and then so you can imagine how fun it was for me to actually come down and do a set list for a 60-minute show.
Yeah.
So I bought an individual book for my show.
Wow.
And I write it down. I change the set list maybe 60 times.
There you go.
But then this set list that I've got now, it's the best running order of that show I've ever done,
Awesome.
and it works really well. Yeah.
Well,
so
there you
I'm
go.
pretty pumped.
Lesson of the day: you think you can do stand-up, but you can't. You need to buy a diary first.
2 diaries.
You need
If
2
you do it,
diaries.
2 years.
There you go. So wrapping it up, what shows have you got coming out? What should people do to see you perform? Where should they go?
So obviously Big Fork Theatre, I do a bunch of shows with them. Friday or Thursday, Friday night. School Night Comedy Thursday night. Big Fork Fridays, Friday night. You can find tickets on our Facebook page, Big Fork Theatre, and on our website, www.bigforktheatre.com. We also do a whole bunch of classes if you're interested in learning improv. And for stand-up, I do stand-up all over town. I can't even remember what I'm doing this week, but I'm slow. I took a break last week, so this is the week I get back into it.
Wow.
I run Magic
Congrats.
Mike every Sunday with Michael Griffin.
Okay.
That's at the Milk Factory. So if you ever,
I love that place.
yeah, so come on down on Sunday nights, 7:30 at the Milk Factory. You'll get a free open mic show. Great food, great drinks too. But you can see me. I MC and headline all over Brisbane. I do spots. I just drop in and do open mic spots. So I'm actually in Brisbane for the rest of the year. I'm not traveling anywhere. I'm just kind of working on generating new material for shows next year. So you'll probably see me do
there.
okay to bad, but then really good.
You'll be on the front page of the newspaper with a woman over your shoulder and 2 kids under your arm in front of a burning building saying,
That's right.
"Come see my show."
That's right.
Awesome.
A comedian saves family.
Yeah. That'll be the next step. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. I've learnt so much, and hopefully this assessment piece goes well. If it doesn't, I'm just going to point to this podcast, and we'll just be like, "It was your fault."
Yeah, please. I'll take it.
No, I'm kidding. They give you an out in the criteria. It's not even about. You could have said the worst thing. It's just about how I analyze it. Anyways, thank you very much. All you guys out there who like improv but have never been to long form improv, go see Big Fork. It's awesome because there's a lot of theatre sports guys out there, but I feel like they haven't opened their mind to the vastness of improv yet. So go do it. Like, subscribe, share, spread the word about improv and about Chris. We'll see you in a month.
Follow me on Chris Martin Comedian.
Do it. Also, anywhere else? Do you have?
My Instagram is @pissfarden.
Oh yeah.
And my Twitter is @pissfarden. But I don't understand Twitter, so I barely use it.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't understand. I use Instagram way more because you actually get I don't know how Twitter works at all.
Yeah, we were just talking about this. We don't. He likes Twitter. I don't get it. Anyways,
Do you have a lot of followers and stuff? I don't know how does it work? How do you generate anything?
tune in next time where we solve Twitter. Goodbye.